Hi, welcome to the South Orange Public Library. It's October 2013 and the South Orange Public Library is celebrating National Stamp Collecting Month. Let's begin with our display. We begin here with a display about our wonderful friend Philip Roth. Here in South Orange, we particularly love Philip Roth because he, as you know, did all his writing about Newark and grew up in Newark and is a Newark boy. And so we say, to begin National Stamp Collecting Month, our wonderful friend Philip Roth has helped to make us a nation of readers. And we have a display of all his books and his biography, and we picked out The Plot Against America, which actually has a United States postage stamp that was issued in 1935 right on the cover. And Philip Roth writes in A Plot Against America as an 8-year-old boy about his stamp collection. And there are about 15 references throughout this book, this fictional novel, about his United States stamp collection. What the average reader may not know is that every reference in the book is an actual exact reference to United States stamps. So we've taken 3 of them just to show the reader, particularly the Roth fans, that he was perfectly accurate about what he was talking about. So for instance, on page 56 he writes, the 1934 Mother's Day stamp, designed originally by FDR and displaying in the left-hand corner the legend, quote, in memory and in honor of the Mothers of America, close quote, and to the right of center, the artist Whistler's celebrated portrait of his mother was given to me in a block of 4 by my own mother to help me get going on my collection. What the reader would not know is that that's actually the truth. Here is the block of 4. Here's the quote, and there's the picture of Whistler's mother. And we've done that with several other quotes. So this is the way we began our display for National Stamp Collecting Month. This is the New York Times story from February 21st, 1962. This stamp came out on February 20th when John Glenn successfully landed in Project Mercury. And what happened is, and according to the New York Times, but I remember it as a child, every post office in the country received a pack of these stamps, but they didn't know what was in the pack, and it said, do not open under strict law until notified. And as soon as John Glenn landed, all the postmasters around the country were notified to open up the secret packages and sell these stamps in honor of John Glenn. And it was a surprise printing and a surprise release. There had never been a surprise stamp before. And the fun part of it was, you're not supposed to have a living human being on stamps. Only dead Americans could be on postage stamps. Here we are at the first exhibit. The first exhibit was designed to let the viewer see what a stamp collector uses as his play and workspace. It has everything that the typical stamp collector would have on his desk. It illustrates the idea that stamps, you see the same stamps on these printed album pages and on these stock pages. You don't even need a printed album to collect stamps. You can collect stamps in any way you want. You could fill the spaces of a printed album, or you could take all the stamps that you like from 1961, as this collector has done, and put them on a stock card. You have magnifying glasses of different quality. You have stamp mounts, these little black mounts in perforation gauges, which are the rulers that measure the size of the holes on stamps. 2 stamps could look absolutely alike, but the hole sizes would be different, the perforation sizes would be different, and it would make them 2 different stamps, and that's why you need a catalog. Here we have a copy of the Scott Specialized Catalog of United States Stamps. So if you have stamps that look alike but have different perforation sizes, the catalog would tell you exactly which stamp it is. And then we have a phosphorescent light. Because of this, since 1968, all of the stamps have been tagged with phosphorescence so that they can be handled in high-speed machines that handle our mail today. And we call those stamps that glow. And here's a little book that describes how you can check all your stamps that glow. So when you look at this whole desk, it's just a fun place. And we added the inverted Jenny, the famous upside-down airplane stamp that was discovered in 1918 and was reissued just recently by the United States Postal Service in a $2 denomination. And so that happened right in the month of September. And now here in October, we have them on display right here at the South Orange Public Library. So now we're going to go on to Showcase 2. Showcase 2 is Where in the World Are You From? The Wonderful World of Postage Stamps, and has collections of stamps from countries in alphabetical order from A to Z. And during this month of October, we've offered everybody that visits the South Orange Public Library an opportunity to receive 5 to 6 stamps from the country of their choice. They fill out this little envelope. They tell us which country they want, and we deliver those stamps to them via the circulation desk at the library. So here you have stamps from all around the world, and we borrowed this wonderful map from Doctors Without Borders, an organization that we're all very fond of, to show you all of the countries of the world that do have postage stamps in their repertoire. Showcase 3, it has 3 purposes. The first is to show the viewer about great art in miniature. We've got examples of how great art from artists of all kinds have had their art reduced to the size of a tiny postage stamp. And here is one of my favorites, is we have Grant Wood's very famous American Gothic. And one of the great things about postage stamps collecting is, while you can't buy American Gothic for $20 million, it's hanging in the Chicago Art Museum, we can buy it for less than $1 when we collect postage stamps. On the second shelf, we have something called Trains on Stamps. And the reason for the Trains on Stamps is to show the viewer that you can collect any topic at all. As it says right here, you can collect astronomy, bicycles, cats, dogs, eggs, fine arts, golf, horses, kangaroos, lighthouses, whatever you want to collect. And we added in this showcase the very first stamp in the world that had a train on it. It was issued by the United States in 1869. And it's got the blue, beautiful blue 3-cent engraved locomotive on it. And finally, on the bottom shelf, we call the bottom shelf Hanging with the Big Stars. And we just wanted to show that you can have a relationship with almost every famous person around. And one of the most popular stamps ever issued by the Postal Service was the Elvis stamp. A couple of the most recent stamps are the Althea Gibson stamp and the Johnny Cash stamp, which have come out in the last few months. And another very popular stamp was the Marilyn Monroe stamp, issued about a decade ago. And so that's what we're showing. And of course, we've got Bugs Bunny. And Bugs Bunny is always very popular on the United States postage stamp. This is showcase number 4, and we called it New Jersey Sends Mail. And it has 2 basic displays. One of picture postcards that have been sent over the last 100 years from and to people in New Jersey. And then this display right here is most interesting because it shows that until the late 1980s, local post offices throughout New Jersey postmarked their own mail. And so you see Asbury Park and Atlantic City and Belmar all the way down to Wildwood and Westwood, because wherever you had mail postmarked until about the 1980s, you knew exactly which town it's from. But now if you turn the corner, you see that we only have major postal distribution centers. And we have examples of the South Jersey Postal Distribution Center, the Kilmer Postal Distribution Center, and the Northern New Jersey Metro. The one that serves the South Orange Library is called Dominic V. Daniels. And here we have examples laying down of the Dominic V. Daniels postmark. And Dominic Vincent Daniels was a congressman in New Jersey's 14th Congressional District from 1959 to 1977. And when they built the big PD&C in Kearney, they named it after this wonderful congressman. And then finally, on the middle shelf, we just have 1 or 2 letters postmarked every 10 years from 1980 to 1990. So here you have 1980, I'm sorry, goodness gracious, 1880, 1880, 1900, then 1910, 1920, just to show what mail looked like over the 100-year period. And it's all from places in New Jersey, because New Jersey has sent mail for 150 years. And that's it. And then we go to number 5. Okay, this is exhibit number 5 at the South Orange Public Library for National Stamp Collecting Month. And it talks about the fact that there are stamps issued for all parts of every story for all 50 states. This particular exhibit features wildlife from all 50 states and gives 3 or 4 examples of the many examples that have been issued over the last 150 years to show wildlife from the different states. And one of the reasons we show this is because people can collect the stamps from any state they wish and just tell the entire story of the state of New Jersey on postage stamps. And then right over here is the very first sheet of stamps that ever came out with 50 different designs on one stamp. For the bicentennial in 1976, all 50 state flags were put on the same sheet of stamps. Up until that time, a sheet of 50 stamps only had 1 or 2 or maybe 3 designs at the most. So that shows the story of the 50 states in a different kind of way. And then what we did was, because we only had this one glass showcase and we have the real stamps locked in the showcase, we have created a panorama of all the other 50 states just in photocopy mode. And as it says, each of our 50 states has literally dozens of postage stamps which tell the entire story of the state. Some collectors try to build a collection which tell the detailed story of their state. And this has been a very popular attraction here at the South Orange Public Library. And here we are at the 6th and final showcase at the South Orange Public Library for National Stamp Collecting Month. And it's our key showcase because we call it Stamping Through American History. And that's because United States postage stamps, the more than 4,000 that have been issued since 1847, are truly portraits of American history, portraits of American culture, and portraits of American art. Every aspect of American history can be found on postage stamps. And here's an example of a 6-cent stamp issued on the anniversary of the Pilgrims landing in America. We have all historical moments recorded on postage stamps, and we gave the viewers a sample in these 4 shelves of the different stamps that have been issued to tell America's story. So we always tell students, high school students, junior high school students, collecting United States postage stamps will envision their success at knowing the story of American history. And so there, dear friends, has been a quick view of our displays for National Stamp Collecting Month at the South Orange Public Library. Thank you very much for joining us. Working real well. And by the 1960s, almost all mail was delivered by airmail, but you had to pay a separate rate.
Yes.
In 1977, we discontinued airmail because all first-class mail was delivered by airmail. So this was
Because there are no trains
1963.
anymore, yeah.
This was in a time well before we knew all mail would be delivered by airmail. And this guy paid 8 cents for the airmail rate and 60 cents for special delivery. So special delivery, if it was just airmail, it would come to its destination, go to the post office, and be delivered. This letter got to its post office and then was taken by a special carrier to its destination.
Well, I was going to ask about special delivery stamps because that went out. I don't know when they stopped.
Well, there's no need for special delivery service stopped about 15 years ago. With the rise of email and internet, they found that nobody wanted special delivery. What's big today is express mail, overnight express mail for business papers. So this is the 3rd case, and over here, in the 1880s and goes all the way around to the 1980s, one cover from every 10 years showing what first-class mail looked like from 1880 to 1980.
And how much
the postage was. It was 1, 2, and 3 cents until recently. But I think the most interesting part of this exhibit is right here. Until the late 1980s, every single post office, 31,000 post offices in the United States, had their own canceling machine. Right. So here you have like a couple of dozen in New Jersey, from Asbury Park all the way down to Westwood. But now you don't have that anymore. You have these central processing centers. So we have these from A to Z.
You can't tell where it comes from anymore.
You can only tell the general area. So when you go around the corner here, you see that we have the top 3 that service us are the Kilmer Center, the Dominic V. Daniels Center, and the New Jersey Metro Center. Dominic V. Daniels is right here in Kearney, and most people don't know that he was a Democratic congressman.
That's the Kearney, that's the Kearney, that's
The Kearney one is
post
called
office.
Dominic
Our
V.
stuff
Daniels.
is stamped from.
I remember these.
Well, those were in service from 1926 to 1957.
I
It's
found,
40 years of service on
I
that.
found a couple of unused 1 cent postcards. What do I do with them?
I'll add 32 cents to it. I'll give you 32. Actually, look at these. I think these are 32s. These are my Halloween stamps. Wolfman, Mummy, Frankenstein, Dracula. So these came out 1997 when stamps were 32, when postage was 32 cents. But they're
Wow.
good. They're good for Halloween. So let me take you to the fifth showcase, which is my favorite. States. This is wildlife in the 50 states, but it's one way to show that postage stamps tell every aspect of the United States history and geography. So there's all 50 state flags that have been issued on that sheet and other times during the last 100 years. And here is
Right
50
here,
state
pretty
birds
busy.
and flowers. Whoops.
Don't worry about it, go look.
Here's 50 state birds and flowers. And then these are wildlife from every state. So there you have the Kentucky bluebird, the cardinal, the horse, and these are
Armadillo.
right, exactly, the Texas
And it's
armadillo.
not flat.
Right.
And the Minnesota moose.
And so we only had room for these actual cards, and then the library made small copies, and so all 50 states are available.
We are
On display.
actually using a lot of the lighthouses.
Yes.
You mean the forever stamps?
No, no.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're all designed by a very dear friend of mine named Howard Kozlow, who lives in Toms River, New Jersey. If you
Yes.
just bought forever
Yeah.
lighthouses, Howard just celebrated his 90th birthday. The 5 lighthouses came out a couple of months before his
Oh,
90th
they're still the new
birthday.
ones?
They were brand new ones.
Yeah, that's what's in the drawer.
The New England ones.
Yeah.
For 5,
That's been around for a while.
Rhode Island, Portland, Back Bay, Boston, or something like that.
Did we see any Great Lakes ones?
Yes.
So the whole point is, I've walked you through this, there's one more case downstairs, but the idea was to let people know the many aspects of stamp
Connect
collecting.
it up with.
So you see the stamps from around the world, A to Z, you see the famous people, you see the trains, you see the New Jersey sends mail. You see Philip Roth, which, again, I keep telling you everything's my favorite. I said this was my favorite. I actually like the Philip Roth exhibit a lot, too.
How do they do it? People send in suggestions and there's a committee.
There is
that goes-
something
how
called,
do they go?
in 1957, the postmaster's name was Arthur G. Sommerfeld.
Yes.
Arthur Sommerfeld worked for Dwight Eisenhower.
Eisenhower's, yeah.
And Sommerfeld was at General Motors, and he took Sommerfeld away from General Motors and put him into the Postmaster General's job. And the first thing he discovered as PMG was that there were tens of thousands of requests for different stamps all of the time. And for instance, in 1948, it reached a really horrible moment when the post office issued a stamp with a rooster on it for the 100th anniversary of the poultry industry. And it just made front pages all over the country that we now have chickens and roosters on our stamps. So Sommerfeld came up
We
with
should have moose and not
yeah,
chickens.
a moose,
Why?
exactly.
Yeah, right.
So Sommerfeld came up with a fantastic idea. He formed the Citizen Stamp Advisory Committee, a group of 15 people, businessmen, artists, graphic artists, designers, stamp collectors, and they all serve for 5-year terms. I think it's 3 cycles of 5 people come for 5-year terms. And they meet, they were meeting every other month. They now meet quarterly. And it's up to this group of 15 to advise the postmaster about the thousands and thousands of requests, which stamps they want to be issued.
So how
So
many?
it's a committee that advises the postmaster. The postmaster can issue any stamp he wants
Right.
without their advice.
Right.
That's the prerogative of his job. I gave them on these cards. The people are getting them in little envelopes, but which I'm going to deliver tomorrow, by the way, so that we can have them as promised on November 1st. It says come back on November 1st, and I'm going to send emails to everybody to tell them where they are.